This is the worst time for me to make this video because it's 4th of July and it sounds like a war zone outside, but I don't care. I want to make this video. I'm going to talk about the 2024 films that I've seen that I like and that I have something to say about. I'm not going to talk about the Bob Marley movie. I'm not going to talk about Godzilla X Kong. I like the Bob Marley movie, I just don't like the Godzilla movie. And I have quite a bit to say on some of these films, not a whole lot to say on other films. And that's how it's going to be for this video. And this is going to be a little unscripted. I had a script going in for certain films, but I just want to get through with this. And like I said, I don't have a whole lot to say on certain films. So let's start with Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams, in her feature directorial debut. This was the first film I've seen in 2024, the first new film at least. And I quite liked it. I thought it was a little boring in the beginning, but as the film went on, as the corpse became a character in the film, I thought the film got much more engaging and much more enjoyable. Lisa is a girl who is misunderstood in high school. She doesn't really get along with other people. And she talks to this grave at a cemetery. And one day, lightning strikes the grave, and the corpse from the grave comes to life. And he's in love with Lisa, but Lisa has her eyes set out on her other crush in high school. But the two grow a bond with each other over the film, and that bond is possibly my favorite part of the film. I love these two characters together. Catherine Newton is great. She's great in this film. She's funny. She has an attitude to her. But Cole Sprouse, I think, is really good in this film. He has to restrict his body movement as the corpse because he's dead and a lot of his body parts don't work. And you get a lot of what he wants to say through his movements. And I think he did a really good job with saying what he needs to say without actually speaking words because he can't talk because he's a dead person. Like I said, I think the first act is kind of boring, but it does set up some characters that you aren't supposed to like. And then you see stuff happen to them later in the film that's much deserved. And although the first act isn't the most enjoyable for me, I did find the second and third act to be very enjoyable and extremely funny. There are lots of funny moments in this film, especially a moment near the end of the film where it was just so damn funny to see, and the reaction of the other characters and the song choice that plays, it was perfect. That it made that moment super funny and worth the price of admission. Also, I love the aesthetic of this film. I love the 80s setting. I love the 80s look, and I especially love 80s music. So it was cool to hear certain songs play throughout the film that definitely made the film much more impactful to me. This is a pretty good debut from Zelda Williams. I'm excited to see what else she does next, especially with much more to work with because this is a pretty small film. I don't think it did good in the box office, and there was a lot of factors to that, but I still enjoyed the film, and I'm eager to watch it again because I did have a good time with it overall. The more time passes by, the more I look back on this film wanting to watch it again and thinking about that I actually enjoyed it. When I reviewed this on Letterboxd, I said I'm giving it a 3-star and a C plus or a B minus because my gradings are a 2.5 star is a C plus and a 3 stars a B minus. I gave it a 3-star for a B minus, so I'm gonna say B minus for Lisa Frankenstein. I liked it, pretty good. Not my favorite, I have some issues with it, but I still enjoyed it overall. Now, let's move on to Dune Part 2, directed by Denis Villeneuve. This film was incredible. I absolutely loved this film. Before watching this film, because I didn't watch it when it first came out, I watched the first Dune, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think it's visually impressive, it looks great, the action's cool, but I just think it's really slow and not boring, but just really slow, and it's all set up. This film, however, is the payoff, and this film is much more impressive in terms of its action scenes, in terms of character motivations, in terms of pacing, and especially in terms of action. This film is unironically epic. I love every action scene in this film. You feel the weight behind every punch, slash, gunshot, and explosion. And the sequence of events in these action scenes are so impactful and so impressive when you think about different fighting styles and the technology used and the strategies between all of the characters. Aside from the action, I do love the message in the film about power and seeking power and letting it consume you. And I know there's way more to it than that, but just as a basis and just so I can say the message, I do really, really like the message and its deeper meanings. Timothée Chalamet is really damn good in this film. He's incredible. If he got nominated for a Best Actor award, I would not be upset because he put so much of himself into this role and he's so damn captivating. I thought he was incredible in this film. Zendaya, she's actually really good in the film too. She has a lot of great moments, both by herself and with Timothée Chalamet. All of the cast is great. I think everyone does a great job. But a standout, I believe, is Austin Butler. He plays a psychopath in this film, and he's incredible. He is bloodthirsty, he's ruthless, and the makeup for him was just incredible. Technically, and I mean in terms of filmmaking, this film is damn near perfect. The special effects are much more impressive than the first film. The score is really good. Cinematographer Greg Fraser has pulled off yet another great looking film. He has been the cinematographer for other films like Dune 1, Rogue One, and The Batman. Also the creator. This guy can make excellent looking films. And paired with Villeneuve, he can make a really, really damn good looking film. There are so many wide shots of a bunch of characters or wide shots of landscapes with big special effect moments going on. And even just characters of people sitting in a room and talking or whatever, they look so damn cool. And the Harkonnen planet, I don't know what they did or how they did to pull that off where everything's black and white. It's just so damn impressive. This is easily the most impressive film on a technical scale so far this year. I am praising this film for good reason, but I do have very small issues with it though. I think the film is a little slow. It is payoff for all the setup in the first film, and it does take a while to get to these big payoff moments. And although I was never bored, there were a lot of sequences I just wasn't a fan of, like the Bene Gesserit or whatever they're called, the Space Witches. I just can't get behind those moments or those characters. I'm not a fan of them. I get that they're super important to the film and they're the reason why a lot of stuff is happening in the film, but I just really don't like those moments. Not that I don't like them and I think they're bad scenes. I don't find much enjoyment in them, and I think it just makes me want to get back to the other parts of the film, the much more exciting parts of the film. Overall, I loved this film. I thought it was incredible. It was beautiful to see in IMAX. I loved it. I love the message. I love the action. It looks fantastic. The score is great. I had an absolute blast with this film. I didn't have an issue with the runtime. It's an almost 3-hour long film, but I wanted more of it. That's how damn good this film was. I wanted more of this almost 3-hour long film. If the film continued for another almost 3 hours, I would have gladly sat there and watched it because I had a blast with this film. I'm giving Dune Part 2 a B+. Now let's talk about Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. This film tells a story of the near-distant future where the United States of America is in a civil war. The states are all separated into 4 different factions, and we follow a group of journalists who don't side with any of the 4 factions because they're just journalists. They want to take pictures and record moments of the war, and they want to get to the president and interview him before military groups go and raid the White House. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was pretty good. I have issues with it, but I liked it overall. The cinematographer is Rob Hardy. He's worked on all Alex Garland films, Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. And he also did Mission Impossible Fallout, a film I don't like, but it is impressive on a technical scale. And this film looks really damn good too. There's a lot of great shots in this film, of great lighting, great framing, and camera movements that are both interesting and have meaning behind them. And they all look really cool too. I thought the acting was great all around. Kirsten Dunst gives a great performance. Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney as a little girl. Stephen McKinley, he is possibly my favorite character in the film. He's just an old guy who gets a thrill out of everything going on. I just liked the characters, but I wanted more of them. There's enough done to make you like the characters, to make you understand what they're doing, but I wanted more. I wanted to like them more. I wanted to get behind their motivations more, especially when we get to the third act of the film. You fully understand what these characters want as they developed over the film, but I just wish that would have happened a little sooner, and I just wish the characters were more of the center of the film, because I do think the film is a little repetitive too. We go into moments of the reporters sitting with people fighting, they take the pictures, and I think those scenes are the best in the film when they capture the pictures, because we are supposed to be in the mindset of the journalists, of them not caring about anything going on, not about the people, not about who's dying or what side is what side and what they believe in. They just want to do their job of capturing pictures. And some of them have certain motivations that you can understand, but I just wanted more of it. But back to the repetitiveness that I feel is in the film. They get to people fighting, they take pictures, they see what happened, and then they talk about it for a bit, and then they go and they move on and do it again. They meet another faction, and then they learn from them, take pictures, they see who comes out on top, and then they do it again. It was just that for the first and second act of the film, mainly the second act. I just want to touch on the editing, because I do think the editing is very strong in this film, especially when we get those sequences of action going on and then we get the characters taking the pictures. You capture a single frame, you get to take in not only the image, but the characters taking that image. They're just really exciting to watch because it's also in the middle of the action, and the action of this film is really, really cool to watch. There's a lot of explosions and gunfights, and mainly the third act is just all action. Really cool to watch. It looks really damn good, and it's just so exciting. And I was never bored, but I just wanted more from the characters, because this film could have been much more impactful if we just got into the characters just a little more. And I'm not upset with not knowing why the Civil War is happening, because these characters are journalists. They don't have to know, or they don't have to care. They just have to do their job. But it would have been nice just to know why the states are in a civil war. Overall, I enjoyed this film. If you want to see some stuff with cool action, you can watch this. It may feel a little slow at times, and you may question why this little girl is going with these journalists. I don't know if she's like a kid or just a really young looking adult. I was wondering why this kid is going with them. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I'm giving Civil War a B. Now, this is one of two films on this list that are going to seem a little strange for me to cover, but this is my list. These are the films I've seen this year, and I don't care. This is Spy Family Code White, based on the anime, based on the manga Spy Family. It follows the spy Lloyd as he assembles a fake family to accomplish a mission to ensure peace between two countries. His fake family consists of him, a spy, his wife, an assassin, and his daughter, a telepath. But the daughter, because she's a telepath, knows their secret identities that they're trying to hide from each other. And it leads into antics that they get into as they go on a vacation to learn how to make a dessert so Anya can do good in a class, so the mission can, go further into succeeding. It's just a longer episode of the Spy Family anime. It's really funny. There's a lot of funny anime moments. I like all of these characters. The action, whenever present, is really fun to watch. I love the antics that they find themselves in. Lloyd has to go up against a general in determining what ingredients are in a cake or in the desserts based on one bite from them. And whoever wins gets the last dessert in the restaurant. I just found that to be like a really funny and fun sequence that highlights the characters and their abilities. If you're not familiar with the anime, that is. I usually find most of these anime films released in theaters to look really damn good. And although this doesn't have a higher budget of other films like Ghibli films or like Suzume that I saw last year, or even Inuo, because those films look much more smooth in terms of their animation, I still think this is a pretty good looking film. There's a lot of great looking sequences. There's a lot of great action moments that have a lot of detail in them. And I just had a really good time with this. I gave this film an A- on my letterbox, and I'm still going to keep to that because I just really, really enjoyed it. I don't think it's better than Dune 2. It's my grading. I loved it. I think Dune 2 is the better film, but just for the hell of it, just for enjoyment, I gave this film an A-. Now, let's talk about what I believe to be the best film I've seen of the year so far, and I don't know if anything else will top it. Challengers, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I've never seen a single film of this director. I know he's directed Call Me By Your Name. He did Bones and All and Suspiria, films that I've heard nothing but great things about. But when I first saw the trailers for Challengers, I thought it was going to be like a sappy love triangle film with tennis involved. I didn't know the director at the time, and I wasn't super interested. My girlfriend wanted to see it, and I said, yeah, I'm going to need to be really buzzed to watch that. I just thought it was going to be a really cheesy romance film. But once I found out who the director was, and as more time went on, I was going to go in with a more open mind. And I'm glad I did because I absolutely loved this film. The film follows Tashi and her husband Art. She's an ex-tennis player who couldn't play anymore due to injury. And Art is a successful tennis player, but he hasn't been doing hot lately. So she enters him in a lower bracket tournament to get more confidence in him. But things go awry when he goes up against his former best friend Patrick. And all three of these people have a past with each other, which leads to some very tense scenes, and which leads to, I think, one of the best sequences, possibly the best sequence in any sports film. And I'm going to be honest, I think this is one of, if not the best sports film ever, just because of how exciting and engaging it is. Not only because the tennis sequences are filmed great and there's tension behind it, but because the character motivations are all so damn investing. Before I get into anything else, I'm just going to mention the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Damn, this score was exciting, it was upbeat, and it really made the film much more impactful. It made every scene much more impactful. Even if it's just two characters talking, the score is upbeat and exciting, and it makes you more invested in every scene. The cinematographer for this film, Sayumbu Mukdipram. Holy shit. This guy, along with director Luca Guadagnino, pulled off an incredible looking film, not just in terms of lighting and framing, but camera movements, and especially what shots they capture. There are some very, very interesting looking shots that truly show that there are people with a vision behind this film. I audibly said, oh my god, while watching this film, while seeing those certain scenes, because I would have never imagined having a shot like that. And I just can't imagine what they had to do to make that shot. The only thing that I will say as like a negative is that although the editing is great in the scenes, I'm more so talking about the editing when we time jump. I think that we time jump not too much, but it happens when I want to be in a scene for just a little longer, or even when we're in the past, I want to be in them for a little longer. And although they have intention, and although you understand where you're at, there are some moments that make me think, oh damn, we cut away from the present when we're in the tennis tournament, the championship, the final round. We cut away from it. So it kind of makes the final round, at least in the second act, it doesn't seem like it's the final round or that it's the final match of this tournament. I was a little confused, thinking, wait, is this the final tournament already? Usually it feels like it's supposed to be in the third act, but once that was the main focus, or maybe I'm misunderstanding that we were not in the final tournament, it just seemed like we were. I'm not sure. But when we were in the final tournament and when that was the main focus, then the third act, it was very impactful. It was so damn intriguing. and it was a great ending to the film, the way the film ended. It's absolutely beautiful. It is truly made with passion, love, and care, and I'm very excited to watch it again. I'm giving Challengers an A. Now let's talk about The Fall Guy, directed by David Leitch. I don't know how you say his last name. Anyways, this is a director who made his directorial debut with John Wick, even though only Chad Stahelski was credited. He's also directed Atomic Blonde, the Hobbs and Shaw Fast and Furious movie, Deadpool 2, and Bullet Train. I really liked Bullet Train. It's really fun, and based on this director's credits, he knows how to direct really engaging action scenes. And if you don't know this about the director, he also is a stunt performer and a stunt coordinator. So he has a lot of stunt work under his belt. And this film is about a stunt performer who gets injured on a stunt. He's on vacation for a year, trying to get his body back into health. And he gets invited on to a film of his old crush, who is a camera assistant, who's now directing the film. But he goes on a mission from the producer of the film to find the star of the film. And the film is already in such chaos in production, and if they don't find the star, the film could be canceled. But the stunt performer, played by Ryan Gosling, gets caught up in a bunch of crazy situations that involve the missing actor. I had a blast with this film. I thought it was really fun. The action was great. It looks really cool. All the stunt work is great. Stunt performers really need a lot more recognition than they get, and we've been getting that a lot more recently. I'm really pulling for that stunt performer category in the Oscars. They truly deserve it. They put their lives on the line so we can see cool action movies like this, and John Wick, and all these big action films. They truly deserve more recognition. As fun and exciting as this film can get, there are some issues I have with it, such as the pacing. I think the pacing is all over the place. The film will be really fun and exciting, and then we kind of slow down to get back to the romance side of the film with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's character, the director of this film that they're working on. It also doesn't help that I wasn't a fan of that Emily Blunt character until later on in the film. She was just kind of a dick to Ryan Gosling's character in the beginning. And it seems like it kind of came out of nowhere. They say like one line about their relationship, even though she seems like she's totally in the wrong. And she's making Ryan Gosling keep performing this stunt where he has his body thrown against a wall over and over again. It's just kind of a dick move, so I didn't really like that character in the beginning. And there's a moment where Ryan Gosling is on a mission to do something, and then he has to stop and take a phone call and talk with the director for a bit. And it really slows the film down a whole lot because there's something much more exciting going on involving this mission that he has to go on. But we have to stop to do the romance stuff, and I get it. It's a romance subplot, but it couldn't be more exciting. Did it really have to be that boring and drag the pacing of the film? The best part of the film, aside from the action and the stunt work, is obviously Ryan Gosling and his friend, played by Winston Duke. That guy is a bro in this film. He is an absolute bro, and they have a cool action scene together, and their charisma whenever they just talk, it's just so fun and engaging. You can't help but enjoy those two characters together. The film was pretty funny. I had a lot of good laughs, and that's mainly because Ryan Gosling is just such a funny guy. He has a lot of charisma to him. And also the film just looks really good too, and there's a lot of visual flair. There's a lot of great moments with a lot of interesting things going on in terms of, visual flair. There's a scene where Ryan Gosling gets drugged, and when he's fighting these people in a club, there's a lot of special effects going on, mainly in post, I think. When he punches someone, there's a bunch of colors blasting off of him. It just looks really cool. I still had a whole lot of fun with this film. I have some gripes with it, but overall, it was just really fun, really enjoyable. The action's great. I love Ryan Gosling and Winston Duke. And although this was being touted as a love letter to stunt performers, sometimes it didn't really come off as that, mainly because there was that romance subplot that I wasn't so invested in. I just wanted more of the much more engaging plot that was going on in the film. Anyways, I'm giving The Fall Guy a B. I mentioned earlier that there is going to be another film I'm talking about that seems a little strange, that none of you have probably seen, but I don't care, I'm talking about it. This is Red vs. Blue Restoration, directed by Matt Holm. Red vs. Blue, if you don't know, is an online web series, a machine cinema, that uses the video game Halo and all the Halo games to make a show using the tools in the game, using the Forge tool in the game. The show was a massive hit when it initially released, and the premise at first was simple. Two teams of incompetent soldiers, a red and a blue team, in a box canyon trying to take control of the canyon. It went from that to conspiracies involving their military program that put them there, and the characters learn their true purpose, and it has a very engaging story as the seasons go on. Well, now let's just focus on Restoration, the last hurrah of Red vs. Blue. It's directed by Matt Holm. Matt Holm also voices Sarge, a fan favorite. Anyways, there's a lot of backstory explaining where this film takes place and what the plot really is. So it's just about the remaining Reds and Blues teaming up so they can stop a big baddie from killing them and trying to take a fragment of an artificial intelligence program to become whole with the other fragments of that artificial intelligence program. It's a lot to explain. None of you probably care, but I don't care because I enjoyed it. It's pretty good for what it is. It's a pretty good send-off for all of these characters that I've come to grow and love over the past, 12 years that I've been watching the show. Over the past 14 years I've been watching the show. There's some pretty funny moments in the show. Anytime we get the animated action moments, sometimes it looks cool, but sometimes it looks wonky, and that's mainly because they were rushed. They wanted to get this out before the company Rooster Teeth shut down, and it's not as smooth as when Monty Oum, rest in peace, Monty Oum, was in charge of these bigger action sequences, mainly in seasons 8, 9, and 10. And even after his death in the Chorus trilogy and the moments after that in the Shizno trilogy, even the animation wasn't looking so hot. But the reason for this animation not looking so hot is because they were on more of a strict budget and they had to rush it out before their company went down from under. But I do think this film was a good send-off for our characters. Each character has their own moment to recollect on the past, to move forward, to say goodbye to other characters. It was just very bittersweet, mainly because it's over and we're not going to get any more of this. But it's not goodbye, it's see you later. It's kind of an emphasis made in the show too throughout the years. Some characters don't like saying goodbyes, so it's more of a see you later, or it's they're just not here right now. And I think they emphasize that pretty much with this season. Anyways, I'm giving this film a B-. It was enjoyable enough for what it was. Send off of emotions of all these characters, reminiscing on the past, saying goodbye and moving forward. Pretty funny moments, but kind of wacky pacing. And then don't think too hard about where it lands in terms of where exactly it takes place in the timeline of the show, because even they have messed with that quite a bit. But it doesn't matter, it's just a nice send-off. Now let's talk about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, directed by George Miller. The only Mad Max film I've seen was Fury Road. I haven't seen the original trilogy, just Fury Road when it came out. I loved it then. I'm sure I'd still love it now. And I loved this film. I thought it was really damn cool. It follows the life story of Furiosa from a little girl being kidnapped from her home and having to grow up around the madness that is people riding bikes and cars in this wasteland in the future and killing each other in gruesome ways. The film is split up into 5 chapters. Each of them tell their own story. I thought the first 2 were excellent. It kind of drags at points because there's just so much at play here. But the highlights of the film are the action and Chris Hemsworth as this character Dementis. It just looked like he had a blast. I loved Chris Hemsworth in this film. I thought he was incredible. He was funny. Chris Hemsworth is just so charismatic too. And he was kind of ruthless. This guy is a ruthless character, and I love that about him. The film kind of drags for me when we get to see Immortal Joe, or whatever his name was from Fury Road, And then we have to talk about, oh, these characters are trying to take over Bullet Town, or these characters are trying to take over Gas Town, or, oh no, conflict between the different factions. These guys are betraying these guys, and herber. I wasn't really a fan of seeing all of that. I was more so invested in seeing Furiosa's journey and the action. The action is great in this film. It's imaginative, it's wacky. I mean, where else do you get to see bikes flying in the air because they're attached to fans and then they shoot guns and rockets and shit on giant war rigs? I don't know where else you can see that aside from Mad Max. It's so damn cool and fun and wacky and imaginative. The film also looks really, really incredible. There are some CG moments that look a little noticeable, but it never takes you out of the film because it blends so well with everything else going on. And this film has such a big scale in terms of action, in terms of framing, in terms of what explosion you're going to see and how it impacts the characters around them and how it impacts the setting. There's just so much at play in terms of the action. It's just so damn cool. This is one of the more visually impressive films of the year. It sucks that it's not doing so hot at the box office. I don't think it's going to make its budget back. That really sucks, but hopefully it'll do good in streaming. It just felt kind of weird knowing that this character Furiosa isn't going to make it home because, you know, it's a prequel and we know what happens in Fury Road. And you know what's going to happen in terms of, you know, her arm. She's trying to draw star coordinates on her arm. And you know which arm that is. If you've seen Fury Road, you know which arm that is. I just wanted to see more of her trying to find her way home and trying to find ways to escape. But she is strung up in all these characters fighting for, you know, Gas Town and resources and whatever. The film was a little slow, but it had to set up a lot to get to the more bigger action sequences in the film. I was never bored. I just wanted the film to get going a little quicker to get to those action sequences because they are the best parts of the film. They are really damn fun. I'm giving Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, a B+. It was just really fun. It was really cool to see. It should have been a perfect summer blockbuster to sit down and enjoy, but sadly, it's not doing so hot in the box office. Now let's move on to the featured directorial debut of Kelsey Mann, Inside Out 2. Now, I love the first Inside Out. I think it's so damn imaginative and the emotions strike you so damn hard. So Inside Out 2 has a lot to live up to. Is it better than the first film? No. Did it have to be? No. It just had to be different. It had to be its own thing. And I think it succeeds that in flying colors. The film follows Riley as she is going to high school and she has to go to a hockey camp for a few days. But some issues arise when she finds out that her friends aren't going to the same high school with her. And so once she hits puberty, the funny puberty alarm that shows up at the end of the first Inside Out film, Riley gets more emotions, that being anxiety, envy, ennui, which is the boredom as the emotion says it is, and embarrassment. Anxiety believes she has the correct way to navigate Riley's life, so she bottles up the original emotions, joy, anger, fear, sadness, and disgust, and she sends them away, and then she also takes away Riley's beliefs. It's this new thing set up where instead of the emotion islands or whatever they were called in the first film, instead of the islands that made up Riley, it's the beliefs that make up Riley now. The islands are still there, but the beliefs is what makes Riley, you know, who she is, what she believes, and what she believes herself to be. And anxiety is trying to replace that with her own new belief thing. So the original emotions have to get that back, and they have to stop anxiety from overriding Riley too much with anxiety. So the film has a sort of similar structure to the first film, and there are some moments that feel very reminiscent of the first film, that being certain moments that seem like they're kind of backtracking on what we learned on the lessons of the first film, but it sort of makes up for it because we're in a new setting and they do enough to differentiate these moments from the first film. But I think it all comes back to a satisfying ending when these characters look back on what they did, the emotions, I mean, when they look back on what they did and they see that they have to undo what they did in order to save Riley, because Riley's being overridden so much with so much anxiety, and she doesn't have those emotions in her, the original emotions. Aside from the storytelling in the film, there is a lot I really liked. I like the score. I think it's very upbeat. It's different from the first score. I do like the first score more, but this film does enough with its score to set it apart from the first film and to make these moments more impactful, because the score is pretty good. I also do believe it is the feature debut for Andrea Dotzman, the composer for this film. Although I will say I wasn't a fan of the new version of the original theme from the first Inside Out film. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I did like the rest of the score though. And visually, this film looks stunning. Of course, it's cliche to say that Pixar makes good films. They're so detailed, and I don't even want to imagine how much time goes into a single frame of anything that they've made. It's definitely one of the more interesting looking films in terms of Pixar, but it's so colorful. I love the different animation styles that happen in the film. Overall, I really like this film. There's a lot to play with here, and I'm pretty sure anyone of any age will enjoy this film. There's a lot that people can take from this film, much like the first film, because it's different from the first film. There's different emotions at play than the first film. There's different things at stake than the first film. It's different enough from the first film, and I appreciate that about it. I'm giving Inside Out 2 a B+. It's crazy that it's also the most successful film of 2024 so far. It just crossed $1 billion a few days ago. So now let's end this off with the feature directorial debut of Julio Torres, Problemista, a film I was very much looking forward to last year, but didn't come out because of the strikes. Although I think it released at a festival last year, it didn't release in theaters until this year. I saw it at home on HBO Max, and I liked it. It was good. It's definitely unique. It definitely is a vision from someone, and that person was able to do exactly what he wanted to do. But the film is rather strange. I like the concept of the film. I like the characters. I like the situations that they get themselves into. I will say the film is kind of boring sometimes. There are more interesting factors I wanted more from. And I wish the pacing was a little better. And I wish I was more invested in certain moments in the film. But I still liked it overall. It's definitely interesting. The film follows Alejandro, an aspiring toy designer who needs his visa signed as he gets fired from a job in New York. So he joins up with Tilda Swinton's character, an art critic, and they have to put on an art gallery to raise money so they can keep Tilda Swinton's late husband, who is in cryogenic sleep, and she will then sign his visa for him. So that's the plot of the film. What did I think of the film? I liked it, but I do have some issues with it. I think it's slow at times. I think it's kind of boring at times too. It's definitely presented in a very unique way, and I appreciate that about this director so far. But I just wanted the film to get along. But I do appreciate that this is a director with a vision, and there's a lot of funny sequences and interesting sequences that happen, but there are also a lot of kind of weird sequences that I just couldn't get behind. Julio Torres wrote a character for himself that's written in a very unique way. He's kind of nervous and he's kind of squirrely, and he has to learn to stand up for himself. So being around Tilda Swinton's character, Elizabeth, he ends up trying to inherit some of those qualities for himself. He has to learn to stand up for himself. And Tilda Swinton is the best part of the film. She is a great actress, and in this film she has a lot of eccentricities about her. She has a lot of unique qualities about her. Her inability to use technology, and her insecurities about her life and herself as a person. I think the film looks good. It's presented in a unique way when we get more of those weird sequences that happen. And I like most of those sequences. I think they're kind of cool to look at. I'm not sure if I was a fan of the score. There's a lot of music going on in the film, and I think it's to keep a lot of these moments not boring or not more boring than some of them were, because most of the film is just people talking. And people talking could be good. but that's most of what this film has to offer. And I do like a lot of the conversations that happen in the film, but there are undoubtedly a lot of slow and kind of a lot of boring sequences in the film. I still liked the film. I'm giving Problemista a B-. It was good, but I don't think I'm gonna rush back to watch it anytime soon. So anyways, that is my long video on the 2024 films that I've seen so far that I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to talk about the Bob Marley movie because I didn't have anything to say on it really. I liked it. It was good. And I didn't want to talk about Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, because I didn't want to talk for 40 minutes about why I hate that movie. I just wanted to talk about the films that I had some things to talk about. And sorry for all the fireworks happening. It's 4th of July as I'm recording this, and I didn't want to wait any longer to make this review. I know I chose the worst time to record this, and it's just audio, but what are you going to do? So anyways, have you seen any of the films that I talked about so far? Tell me what you thought about them in the comments below, and I'll be back with more enjoyable content like this. So yeah, bye.